closed session, don't keep them waiting.
Okay.
We'd have to take attendance again because Mr. Kim.
I think we should, thank you, I think we should actually, either we take attendance again with a roll call, or for the record, we should stipulate that Mr. Kevin Lim has arrived.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
You can just stipulate.
Yeah.
Let the record reflect. What time did you want to do?
Yeah, 6:35. Yes, you can continue.
Now, report to board president. The first, we updated the committee, appointments, adding a new committee, okay? Which is school safety and security on district, school website. So you could check that one, okay? And second one, 2 weeks ago, hi. 2 weeks ago, on March 2nd, it was National Red Cross America Day. Now, Mr. Fallon is here. That day, Lindbergh Elementary School celebrated getting book vending machine to use this machine, I really like that. Students have to earn tokens, is that right? To get books. And to get a token, students have to get 5 tickets, right? And kids earn tickets for good behavior and good grades and the respect for their teachers. So the students are very, very excited. And they love using the book vending machine. And also parents love this idea, right? So thank you very much to the Lindbergh staff members and Mr. Fallon, who work hard to raise funds to purchase the vending machine. That cost was $6,500 something like that, right? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now next one, report to the superintendent, Dr. Sorrell.
Thank you, Ms. Min. So I have 3 items to report tonight. Number one, obviously we have a presentation that is required by statute. Our New Jersey Start Strong results are in. We will speak to those results. Additionally, under my report, we are permitted, and I'm going to speak to the equivalency waiver. And number 3, on February 28th, every 3 years, the State Department of Education comes to visit school districts. That is called QSAC. The obviously equivalency waiver is associated with it. It is a quality assurance system where the Department of Education comes in to look at 5 critical areas of the school functions. Those 5 areas are of personnel, governance, fiscal, operations, and curriculum and instruction. That one I should have remembered because that's why we're presenting tonight. Sorry. With that being said, I can go on record and tell you 4 of the 5 areas will be receiving exemplary standing. We definitely have to show a proficiency of 80% or better in each of those areas. The one area I am going to speak to before I turn it over to Mr. Fallon and Mr. Garcia, thank you for being here, is that of the equivalency waiver. But before I do that, I want to have our student rep, who now is identified by nameplate and was just yesterday acknowledged as a unsung hero for the Palisades Park Junior Senior High School and will be honored at Richfield High School on March 30th. Ileana Dela Cruz, congratulations.
So this month we got off to a good start. We had our winter sports dinner, which is like an annual thing that we do, to commemorate the sports. It was really nice to hear what the coaches had to say about their athletes. It was kind of a bittersweet moment though for the boys basketball team and for the dance team, since we have so many seniors that are going to be leaving. And we told the underclassmen that it's going to be like some big shoes to fill in. This week the juniors had their NJGPA testing, and I'm pretty sure it ended today. Our junior class is very smart, so I'm pretty sure they did a very good job on that. Next week, some of our students from the National Honor Society will be helping the PTA and volunteering at a book fair at Lindbergh. All the students here are so excited because this.
You see here.
Oh, this year, yeah, this year.
ECC.
They will, yeah, at the ECC, sorry. And they're really excited because, you know, it reminds them of when they went there and how they got to do that. And yesterday was National Pie Day. Mrs. Umashakian decided to plan something really fun for us. So we got to, all the students for about a week and a half, we got to donate money into these jars, and some teachers got to volunteer, and whoever had the most money, you know, got pie. Mr. Garcia was one of those people that got pie. And it was just really fun, and we got to, it's National Women's History Month, so all the money that we raised got donated to the Center for the Hope and Safety, which is a nonprofit organization in Rochelle Park here in Jersey.
Thank you, Ariana. So if you can, just turn your chairs. I know this is convenient for the board members, and I apologize. This info will be on our website. But again, as required by statute, the equivalency waiver looks at our data in summary from year after year. And when you are CUSAC'd, curriculum and instruction has a component made up of your assessment results, your test scores specifically. The problem is, for the last 3 years, we had obviously endured COVID, and there were no test scores to compare year after year. So I guess the Department of Education realized that it would be unfair to take data from the spring of 2022 and compare it to the spring of 2019. I don't think that would be fair. With that being said, 80% of schools across the state of New Jersey would not have been successful in passing that one area of curriculum and instruction if they compared 22 data to 19 data. That is not a good reflection. The State Department of Education at the end of January realized this concern, realized that that is a serious impediment to many school districts, and said internally, if you have any assessments that you utilize that show growth approved by your Board of Education, approved by the Department of Education, we would heavily consider it for approval in CUSAC. We partner with a company, a vendor that is approved by the state called Linkit. Linkit data, and we administer benchmark assessments in 2 of our 3 schools. Actually, in 3 of our schools, the kindergarten inventory is not an assessment necessarily, but it sets baseline data for us. But we have benchmark assessments, a Form A, a Form B, and a Form C. That shows growth at 3 points during the year, not 22 data and 2019 data. It's hard to compare one year to the next. It's harder to compare a 3-year gap after enduring COVID, where there was learning loss. What I'm going to show you is what has already unofficially been approved by the Department of Ed. I was not coming here tonight to ask for a motion to use this data unless they said it would be sufficient. So the state has already permitted, because the 2 areas specifically were ELA, English Language Arts, and mathematics. And there had to be growth shown. As you can see, our data in 2021 versus our data in 2022. In ELA, at the elementary, middle, and high school shows growth. Don't worry about the number 40, okay? That is not indicative of the population passing or failing. The number 45.27 clearly is showing a 2.14 increase percentage-wise of students showing growth. The State Department of Education has found that to be acceptable for us to use in ELA. For mathematics, we went from a 42.27 in 21 to a 44.53 in 22. Again, we are showing growth in mathematics. Although these are internal measures, these are not teacher-made assessments. These are tests that are derived from Linkit that are very similar to standardized tests that students will take. It's an opportunity for them to get more comfortable when they do have to sit for those exams. What I can tell you, and why this information and data was acceptable to the state, we are capturing a glimpse of the categories on your left: free and reduced lunch, 504 students who may have underlying disabilities, temporary therefore, ELL, our English language learners, specifically our students with limited English proficiency, our special ed population, and clearly our general ed population. So, when the state looked at our combined, all-inclusive data of all students being represented, we clearly showed growth in both ELA and math. Unofficially, the state gave us the thumbs up. It is required that we present this at each of our schools, which I know we have at faculty meetings, share it with all of our faculty members, share it with the board, the community, and then ask for a motion in new business. Any questions on the equivalency waiver? Yes, Bill?
What do the numbers actually represent?
What do the numbers actually represent? Great question. So the numbers, obviously, we're looking at our population increase of test scores from year after year. So in grades 3 to 6, we had 51% of students scoring a 3 or better. So on our state test, you could go 1 to 5. Is that correct? A 3 or better, for the most part, is satisfactory. A 1 or 2, there are needs for improvement. So the 3 or better is what we tried to capture to be consistent with our state test.
So 40, what's the percentage?
44.53 in mathematics
Is 3 or better,
is 3 or better,
overall in all schools?
the whole district. But as much as the 44.53, we can argue that 55.47 to capture 100% is a 1 or a 2 potentially. There's room for improvement. The state wasn't necessarily worried about that. The state wanted to see that we are showing growth. When they look at our data, we have to obviously show growth year after year. Otherwise, we are moving in the wrong direction.
Any idea how that number would look versus 2019, just?
Did we use Linkit for the full year in 2019? No, we started in 2020. So unfortunately, in many school districts, unfortunately, unless you could not use your internal test scores, you had to use a third-party provider, so there was no bias in those results. So many districts that did not have contracted 2-year comparative, you know, they would not be able to even seek a waiver. What we could do, though, at the end of this year, I could do 22-23 data. Are we done with Form 2?
Yeah,
Form B?
yeah.
So we're done with 2 of the 3 required tests on this system. So I could definitely run that, we can run that report again in April, May? Yeah, probably in a couple of months. Yes, Mr. Lim.
Yeah, so what is growing that, what is the statewide average numbers, you know?
The statewide average,
Yeah.
well, not all schools in the state would use Linkit, so we wouldn't be able to compare us statewide here. Statewide, I can tell you, factual record, that there would be no waiver if people were passing CUSAC in curriculum and instruction.
Well, any school participating rate that have some kind of total population and what is the average copies?
Any school participating in what?
Rate, right?
In Linkit?
Yeah, rate.
I'm not sure if they would share that with us, but you guys know.
They do, they compare us to districts that are similar to us.
And we don't have that data, no one has, we have not, Mr. Lim, it's hard for us to compare to neighboring towns. I think usually Linkit compares us most often as to Elmwood Park, because they're a junior, senior high school, they're similar in size, although they're a little bit bigger. What other schools are we compared to? Bogota sometimes, and they're a little smaller than us. But again, we can seek that information from Linkit. I don't know that they're gonna share their percentages, because you're talking about different, you know, groups of population, subgroups, thank you. I think they would tell us what the percentage of growth is. And I can get that info.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
is,
sure.
You know, even though we are growing, but, you know, compared to, you know, overall average for other towns.
Yeah, so Linkit has never been used for this purpose. The truth is, Linkit was used in our purposes to, one, let the student be acclimated to a standardized test, although it wasn't the actual test that they take in the coming months. But 2, we also wanted there are many factors on Linkit that can identify strengths and weaknesses of students. And is a great indicator. I believe the Paramus schools use it. I know my children.
Some of school districts don't use Linkit, but we can compare for NJSLA.
Yes,
So
so
the
it's,
other,
you would upload your data like we
Yeah,
do, and then we can make, predictable analysis, really, is what we wanna do here. We wanna take Form A, B, and C, and we wanna say, this is the areas that we are showing deficiency, this is where we need to concentrate, more focus on this subgroup of children, and then add to those concerns. And we have identified many of those. I know we're gonna talk about it in the next presentation on Start Strong. So, thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Andrew and I are going to be speaking tonight on the 2022 Start Strong assessments that we took in the fall of this school year. So the Start Strong assessments are brief, designed to maximize instructional time and quickly provide critical data to teachers and school leaders. The tests are based on a subset of prior year academic standards. So what that means is if I am a current fourth grader, I'm being tested on third grade standards to see what was learned last year and where you're at. We presented this data in October of 2020 on the previous year. So this is our current year data compared to last year's data. And we tracked cohorts of students, so you would see fourth graders from last year to fifth grade this year to see the differences and the changes.
And so you know, and I believe Mr. Shin last year, or Mr. Lim asked the question, believe it or not, how did we compare to the previous year? Start Strong only started after COVID happened. There's a federal mandate that we administer a standardized assessment. You didn't hear this from me. Start Strong is going away. It's not official yet, but tomorrow I'll be at a conference with the Commissioner of Education, and we're expecting a announcement rather soon. There's no longer a need for Start Strong. There's no longer a need to test a student in the fall. We are doing spring assessments. We need to test them on what they've learned throughout the year. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's a 45-minute quick assessment. The difference between the Start Strong and the NJSLA is there is no writing. So it is just a multiple choice assessment, similar to our Lincoln assessment that gauges where the students are at. It scores them in 3 levels, level 1, 2, and 3, which we will go into. And it provides immediate results to the teachers and school leaders so that they know how to differentiate instruction and plan their lessons for the fall. It's tested in ELA and mathematics in grades 4 through 10 in ELA. So as you can see here, I'll go over elementary and then Andrew can speak to the middle and high school. Grades 4, 60% of our students fell into the level 1, which is that they need strong support. Level 2 for 4th grade was 19%, and level 3, meaning they need less support, which means they're pretty much on level, we were at 21%. 5th grade, a little higher, 32% fell into the needs a lot of support category, 20% level 2, and 48% in level 3. 6th grade, 40% need strong support, 27% level 2, and 32% in level 3. These are our 2022 data, so this is going to be compared in the next slides to how the cohorts did in this grade. We won't have data for grade 4 because they were in grade 3 last year and they did not take the assessment.
So as you can see up there for grades 7, 8 through 10, I mean, we're hovering around the 50%. But again, I always like to say, like, these are just the numbers, but the more important slides, at least to me, are coming and what we're doing about it in our own individual buildings.
And then in the district level on the bottom, you see in the highlighted yellow, where we fell as a district, 48%, 1, 20%, level 2, and then 32% level 3 in ELA. Same thing, just in a chart form. When we post this, you guys can look at that as well.
That's the one I like, with the bars.
Mathematics is a little bit of a different story. We know that mathematics has been our struggle, and we are putting strategies in place to mitigate this for the future. Grades 4 through 6, similar numbers, 55% for level 1, 28% level 2, 17%. So the numbers are higher in ELA and lower in math. And then in the high school, they test in more concentrated areas, algebra 1, geometry, and algebra 2.
So it's not broken down by grade level, but by content area by class.
And then overall, 60% of our students fell into level 1, 22% level 2, and 17% level 3. Same numbers in a graph. Science, grades 6, 9, and 12 are assessed in science. For the NJSLA in the spring, grade 5 and grade 11, Andrew, are tested in science. So this assessment is to gauge where they are in the next generation science standards from the previous year. For grade 6, which is at the elementary school, 46% fell into the category 1, level 2 was 29%, and level 3 was 25%.
You can see for the high school, you know, we would like to see these numbers reverse, right? These 50s being on the other side of needs less support. But again, we'll get into specifically what we're doing to see that trend the other way.
This is the same information graph. This is some subgroup data, so we broke it down by how different subgroups did. I know it's a little hard to see. When we post this to our website, we can dive into it more. But as you can see, these are the categories broken down by race, and then in ELA and mathematics. Some interventions and strategies that we put in place before we talk about the growth that we saw was that we organized and put together our PLCs for teachers to work together to have common planning sessions and talk about similar trends that they saw in their classrooms. We spoke about this in the fall, but we hired full-time BSI teachers at the elementary level to push into classrooms and work with students who were categorized on the bubble to push them to reach into the passing range. We subscribe to different supplemental programs such as IXL and News ELA to ensure that our students were getting the supplemental support. Also to assist with differentiation when the teachers were in their classrooms for students who were at a higher level and a lower level. We reformed our INRS protocols. Those same BSI teachers put together morning groups, so those same students who were targeted during the day for our during school program were targeted for morning groups. So they came at 8 o'clock to work with the BSI teachers. Our teachers also do extra help 3 days a week for students who need help in the classrooms. We have regular after-school programs. The elementary school and the high school both have academic and ESL programs that occur 4 days a week for 1 hour that focus on intense remediation sessions to mitigate this data. Peer tutoring from the honor societies was being implemented. Increasing our positive school culture initiatives. Items like the book vending machine, different items were put into place to kind of assist with our climate and culture. And continued support from our school-based mental health, our child study teams, and our school social workers to assist with students and to ensure that we're addressing the needs of the entire child.
And I know there's a lot of acronyms: BSI, Basic Skills Instruction, PLC, Professional Learning Communities, just so we sort of have a grasp on what that is. I know it's not in your everyday lingo, but it is in ours.
Expand on something too. You know, a lot of times we look at the test scores and we just focus on academics, but we're dealing with human beings, right? So there's a lot of other things that go into educating a child. So at the high school, we have mentorship programs where, aside from identifying an area of need, right, academically, there's something underlying there too. So we'll pair them up with a mentor, or we'll look at chronic absenteeism data and see, you know, the whole child, not just the academic and the percentages there.
Okay, so this is the data drilled down a little further. For the elementary level, these are my 4th and 5th graders. So 4th grade students last year taking the Start Strong assessment for the first time versus current 5th grade students right now in 5th grade. So you can see here in ELA, which is on the top bracket, the 4th graders scored 60% level 1 in 4th grade, but in 5th grade, they scored 32% in level 1. So that's a growth mechanism of 28%. Green is indicated as good, red is indicated as not so good.
So the negative is not a bad thing.
In level 1.
In level 1. So we're decreasing the number of students that need much more support from 60 to 32.
Yes.
Thank you.
Level 2, we went up 2 points, so you can see some of those level 1s filtered into level 2. But thankfully, most of those level 1s did filter into level 3, which is no support needed. So we jumped 20% for that particular grade in ELA. In mathematics, again, in level 1, we had a decrease of 7%, not as great, but still good. Level 2, we went up 1 point, and level 3, we went up 3 points. So this is definitely showing growth. This is the same cohort of students going from 4th grade to 5th grade in the same test in the next year. For 5th grade and 6th grade, ELA, so you can see here the red in level 1. So we went up 6 points in level 1 for ELA in 5th grade to 6th grade, but we went up in 2 and 3. So there are ebbs and flows in all of the data. So we would have to drill down and see explicitly what students those were. In mathematics, we had a larger growth in ELA, in math going from 73% to 50%. So that was a 23% decrease from level 1, filtering into level 2 and 3. 17% increase going to level 2, and a 6% increase going to level 3. And again, on the bottom here, I have level 1, 2, and 3, what they need. Obviously, we're aiming for level 3s, which is that they need less support, which would have a trajectory to be a level 4 or 5 on the NJSLA, which would be passing.
Yeah, so if you're like me, I'm a humanities guy, I'm not a big numbers person, but the color code helps me, right? So when you see red, it's obviously not that great. We want to move everybody to see more green. But that math for grade 7 is definitely the highlight. We have some work to do in ELA as we do in all areas, but again, that's where our interventions come into play, both during the day and after school programs. Grade 8, again, some red, trying to move over to the green, but without getting into too many details with the numbers, want to see more green, and that's what we're hoping to do with the interventions. High school ELA, again, you know, like Mr. Fallon said, some ebbs and flows, some positives, some negatives, but overall, you know, like Dr. Shillo presented earlier, we are seeing overall growth, but this is digging down a little bit deeper, hoping to change this over to more green.
Our elementary after-school program, so based on our internal benchmarking, which would be Form A to B in both ELA and math using the Linked assessment, we wanted to see how many students in our after-school program grew from Form A to B, which would be from the fall to the winter. This is just the academic program, this is not the ESL program. So 64 students are registered in our after-school academic program, and 74% in ELA and 75% increase on their Form A to Form B in some respects showing growth. So we did want to highlight that because that does go along with our Start Strong data that we are moving in the right direction.
So this is a 7th and 8th grade program over at the junior senior high school. 16 participants in our ELA after school program and 17. Good news, both programs are showing growth. We hope to get those, those numbers up a little bit more too in terms of participation.
This is our Start Strong science data by demographic. For some science interventions, because science obviously is a mandated subject, we put some similar scaffolds in place that we put in for math and ELA. So just not to be redundant, similar interventions were in place, and these are very similar to the ELA and math. And that's it.
So as mentioned earlier, before I allow for any questions on the presentation, and thank you, Mr. Fallon is the principal at Lindbergh. For any of you that have not met him, Mr. Garcia is the principal at the junior senior high school. Again, this assessment was pretty much thrown at us a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, upon our students returning to what we were trying to call the new normal. The new normal was mask wearing, and here's a test, you have to take it now. So the students did it. They showed their resiliency always. Clearly, we have to, by code, by statute, present. These are not necessarily indicative of the work we do every single day, but it's also something that we clearly know next year, there's probably no comparison if the rumors, which are very, very true, are going to be official any day now. There won't be Start Strong data anymore. There will be NJSLA, and that's what we are obviously working towards. That's what, Bill, your question about the data 1 to 5 is the Linked data. This was a 1, 2, 3 system in place. So Linked, Form A, Form B, as you can see, the after-school programs, although we're identifying students that need most attention and or remediation, We can't mandate after-school programs. Clearly, you saw a dip. I think there was 74 or 75 kids at Lindbergh, 16 or 17 at the junior, senior high school. Unfortunately, although they're only in 7th and 8th grade, we wish more kids would take advantage of these programs. They're free. We offer them, we identify the children. We can't force them to stay. But clearly what we're doing intervention-wise is working, so I applaud them. I applaud the team, the staff that's working and staying after hours. Thank you for being here. Any questions?
So these assessments are done before the start of the school year, the academic year?
No, so September, upon their return, I think we have to administer like in the first 3 weeks or a month.
September 30th.
By September 30th.
They would be reflections of their studies from the prior academic
Previous year.
Yeah. But I think there was this thing we all learned about, or maybe it was just me as a parent now. It's called summer slide. Has anyone ever heard of that? Oh, you heard of it, huh? So when the kids are home in July and August, I'm not sure that there's much retention. I don't remember what I did yesterday. Just imagine, think about 2 months off. This whole idea was really, and anyone that says differently would be lying to you. We had to administer our students before the end of the calendar year, not we, the whole state of New Jersey, to receive federal money from the U.S. Department of Education. Hence, Start Strong was thrown at us when we returned 2 years ago. It was still here for us this year. Even though we did SLA last spring, we still had to administer this year. I'm pretty confident it's going away.
Could you go back to the ELA slide for grades 4 and 5?
Sure. ELA 4 or 5. The comparison slide, this,
Yes.
that one?
So clearly, the 5th grade students, meaning their 4th grade year, their retention's pretty good. What would you attribute to this progress there? How do we replicate that?
So sometimes it's that it's the second time they're taking it, because 4th grade would be the first time. It was a new test. It also could be dependent on the teaching staff in that particular grade level. So there's a couple different things that we look at when we have trends like this. I can tell you that my 4th and 5th grade tend to trend this way because of the staff and the things that we have put in place.
So you're saying your teaching staff in the 4th grade is showing.
And Bill, I can also go on record and tell you, fortunately, we had summer programs this year. We had summer programs this past summer that if there was a slide, again, I have 2 children. I have a 14 and a 12-year-old. No one's picking up a book in the summer. I'm an educator. Shame on me. The reality is they're kids. Kids don't want to study, right? And read a book. They need a break. But the reality is we offered summer enrichment programs this summer. I'd like to your point, let's look at it. 2 years ago, we didn't do it.
Yeah.
So there's clearly things that are working, that are in place.
At least whatever's happening in that year, I think we need to look at how to replicate that for the other years to ensure continued progress. Because there's definitely a fall off if you look at past the 5th grade. Yeah.
It's a
But
good
it's
point.
also the age, right? Like,
Yeah.
as parents, we have a little more control when they're a little younger, and as they get older, there is that streak of independence, and, you know, you can suggest strongly that they pick up a book, but it's discretionary, so.
It works.
Not for me, maybe for someone else, it does not work for me.
Can I still next page?
The next page, please. So this is grades 5 and 6, Mr. Shin?
Yes.
Well, what I've noticed is that, like, during the COVID, since it was online, a lot of children, a lot of students, they couldn't, how do you say it? They couldn't follow through with all the studies, and yeah, the teacher was on the other end, but they couldn't understand 100%. So it wasn't like really in person kind of a thing. So these kids, a lot of them, they lose 2 years. Now being back for almost 2 years, it's helped a great deal in a huge way to regain all the things that they lost and plus. So that's where I think, you know, the numbers are going up.
Yeah. Those 4th graders, real last year was 1st or 2nd grade.
The last time they had a full year of school.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, to your point, nothing will ever replace in-person instruction. What we've learned, yes, at a college or university, hybrid learning, even we are offering the American Sign Language virtually. These programs tend to work, But nothing will ever replace a teacher in a classroom with a group of children. We know that. Statistics don't need to prove it to us. We know it. There's enough data in this world. Common sense will tell you that. But I think ultimately what we're looking at too is, you know, you're back in school. It's September. The last thing you want to do is, here's a test, sit down, quiet down, let's go, get it done. You know, kids want to be kids. They want to have fun. They want to meet other friends. It's
Close with the test and then you'll.
yeah, we close in May and here, start it all over again. But I think again, in all fairness, so many of our, for whatever it's worth, although it's not what would be indicative of Bergen academies, and it wouldn't be fair to compare us to any of
It's not
those.
fair at all.
We need to compare ourselves to ourselves. And go back to CUSAC for a minute. We cannot compare 2022 to 2019.
Right.
So again, I thank you. This information will all be on our website. It was all presented during CUSAC. So clearly, if there were concerns, they would continue to help us, but they are pleased and satisfied with our results.
One more thing, you know how the high school has the academy separately?
Yes.
Do you have the statistics for just those kids, or?
No, but we could get it.
I would venture to say, Rebecca, again, many of them would be showing need for less support.
Yes, I understand, but like I wanna see where the, academy kids and the regular, you know, students fall as, in terms of like the ELA and math, like which are lacking in,
When you
even
say
in the
academy,
academy?
just
So our math and
Yeah.
science academy or our
Oh,
different
at the high
academies
school.
at the high
There-
school.
Yeah, there's an academy.
Okay.
Yeah, we have
organized by
Bergen
internal.
the
Academy,
school.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
have.
What, I'm sorry, what is academy?
At the high school, there is a academy for selected kids that they go through interviews. You could decide on which major that you wanna
There's
choose,
different
like.
tracks. like
Mr. Garcia can speak to
engineering,
it.
engineering,
Naris,
humanities.
Mr. Garcia will speak to you about it.
Oh, okay. And what grade is that for?
So as students enter the 9th grade, they are eligible, and the 8th grade, there's a entrance exam.
We just finished a round of interviews just last week for next year, so we interviewed the 8th graders for entrance into the academy as 9th graders.
So to offer a potential, or dangle the carrot to not lose all of our best high achievers to Bergen Academies, we want to offer something, and we want to accelerate their learning. We also know that not all children that leave us stay in those schools. They want to return. So we want to offer a program of study that is not necessarily just an honors program, but this is a higher track of students that are entering into the academy.
Okay, I think Valerie told me about that.
Yes, Mr. Shin.
Maybe I didn't follow what you said exactly, but I have one question, ELA.
Yes.
The level 1 and level 2 is 27% and 47%, it makes 84%,
Correct.
But the level 1 is 40%, so out of 100, the 84% minus 84% is 16%. How that 40% came out?
Sometimes depending on our ESL students won't take ELA.
If you are not in the country for a certain amount of time, you are not required to take the assessment. The assessment is only given in one language. So Ms. Min is an ESL teacher,
Just only take math.
they only take
We have to
mathematics.
wait 2
So
years.
if the student is here, I think, and again, don't quote me, if the student is here for less than 6 months, I believe they are not required to take the ELA portion. So again, it might not be indicative of the whole group.
So that happens only ELA, right? Because
Only
the math,
Math, they are
math
required to
rates
take.
exactly 100%.
Math is required to take the test, yes.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
correct in your school as well, that's statewide, yep. Nice job, thank you guys. We'll get this on the website, if there's anything we have to tweak. Thank you, Ms. Min.